Hey everyone, Geophysicist Stefan Burns here. We have a sequence of solar storms racing towards Earth right now, soon to impact, and they are expected to trigger a G2 to G4 geomagnetic storm. Very likely we'll see G3 conditions. This is a strong geomagnetic storm. The scale rating goes from 1 to 5. A 1 is a minor storm, a 5 is an extreme storm. So we're likely to see strong conditions, maybe even up to severe. That would be a G4 storm. It depends on how these 4 different coronal mass ejections that were launched from the sun end up stacking together. We also have a transequatorial coronal hole on the sun near the equator that will impact the Earth with its high-speed stream. And at the front of that high-speed stream, there's something known as a co-rotating interaction region. Basically a wall of high density plasma. And so that is already out in our space environment, soon to sweep past the Earth around the 21st, 22nd of March. Today's the 19th as I record this. We're about to have these storms come in. I will release an update when we are in the geostorm. So subscribe if you want to stay up to date for when we actually have these impacts occurring. And these sort of solar storm impacts and the geomagnetic storms, they cause a lot of energetic flux and volatility across our entire planet, from the magnetosphere down to the plastosphere, into our atmosphere, and even in Earth's surface with telluric currents, and further down into the mantle and the core with geomagnetic pulsations. And so this is a pretty significant energetic event. We get these sort of solar storm impacts and geomagnetic storms more often during the maximum phase and the descending phase of a solar cycle. We are right now at the border between solar maximum for solar cycle 25 and the descending phase. And well, we see all this activity launch from the sun here. This is our combined view of the sun going from the 16th up to the present moment. We'll see this big shock wave right there, some glitchiness in the video at times. You'll see 2 filaments that launch off right there as well. You'll see a new moon transit, actually a partial solar eclipse from the Solar Dynamics Observatory position, and you'll see another shock wave get launched off right there. So here's that partial solar eclipse as viewed from SDO. A lot happening. That's the coronal hole. You see the solar equator right there. And basically, this is a pretty wide coronal hole. These emit high-speed streams of solar wind because there's a bit of a vacuuming effect here. It's showing up dark because there's a deficiency of plasma in the solar corona, the outermost atmosphere of the sun, which is millions of degrees Kelvin in temperatures. Very, very hot. Well, the magnetic field sweeps it all out to space at high velocity, and well, what happens is something's moving really quickly and encounters something that's slower, the plasma piles up. And what we often see with these solar storms, when we get multiple to launch, is that you may think they come in one and then next and the next, and that often is the case, but sometimes in a way that we don't expect, they actually pile up into a stronger solar storm than would have been the case otherwise. Like they combine together. There's a bit of a stickiness, it seems, in space as it relates to plasma. So we have this already flowing in our space environment. It's very possible that all of them combine together and that therefore give us that G4 storm, or at least periods of G4 storming. The official forecast from NOAA is G2 storming with the potential for G3, but because of all these factors, I think we are more likely to have G3 with periods of G4 because we had the new moon still active at this moment in time. We have equinox tomorrow on the 20th, and so that is a alignment in terms of Earth's tilt axis and the Sun-Earth alignment that is very beneficial, you could say, for allowing for a stronger connection between the solar wind and the space environment and Earth's magnetic field and energetic environment. Here we see NOAA's space weather model for this. There's the first coronal mass ejection, definitely in the front as they modeled in front of these other 3, but we see that second one that launched from 2.7 M class flare catching up to those 2 filaments that launched about 24 hours before that final coronal mass ejection shock wave. So I think it's most likely that we do get this one to come in first and then these 2 to follow it behind. That's what they're modeling. They show 2 spikes in the plasma density here. This first one coming in on the 19th It's the 19th right now, and it's already elapsed. So they're already about 12 hours off in terms of this impact. So there is, right? If that's the case, and that's what they're showing here, it means that first one's going a little slower than expected. So there is a possibility they all crunch together. We see that time and time again. Here's the second combined coronal mass ejection solar storm coming in right here. And we see that plasma density going up even higher. We also see the plasma velocity, the solar wind velocity start to ramp up, getting close to 700 kilometers per second. We see that here very nicely. You see the warmer colors are basically corresponding to higher velocity solar wind. This is our top-down view. That's the sun. This is the Earth. And this is our south-north view, so like our vertical view. So we see that these solar storms line up, not only hitting us on the ecliptic plane, going outwards like this, it's not going there or there, but also we're firmly right in the middle of these plasma storms that are coming in. So this is going to create a lot of energetic volatility across the planet. And what actually happens is that this plasma comes in, it carries a magnetic field with it. Earth has its magnetic field, and it actually splits apart Earth's magnetic field and allows this plasma to come in. Now, this doesn't permanently damage Earth's magnetic field. This is just the physics of it. You have these magnetic reconnections. The field lines kind of split apart. You have this plasma ejection, then they recombine in the magnetotail, and this is what allows for this extreme magnetic flux that we experience on the planet, because that plasma then propagates down, precipitates down into the ionosphere, generating strong electric currents, which produce a lot of magnetic flux in the troposphere where we live. Of course, other layers too, the surface and up in the stratosphere, but we feel it really strongly in the troposphere. There's going to be aurora generated from this, of course. So if you're up in high latitude regions, you're definitely going to have a nice aurora viewing event for the next few days. And this is probably going to stretch down to mid latitudes as well. So keep that in mind. Let's look at these coronal mass ejection blast waves that went off. There's the first one. Both of these from 2.7 M-class flares. I'll link these videos in the video description. This is from X. And we see this first one there. This is sunspot group 4892, and it's just before Earth center direct right there, fairly close to the equator. We do see it skews a little bit more this direction. So that's why we were pretty confident that this is going to be a surefire hit from the first one. We see the second 2.7 M-class flare about 2 days later, same sunspot group, now just on the other side of Earth center direct. I mean, even closer though. And that one's skewed a little bit that direction as well, but in general, both of these are coming in. And one thing I want to touch on, and we'll talk about this more in the video, is about how these sort of solar storm impacts and the ensuing geomagnetic storms typically seem to enhance existing weather systems to be stronger than they otherwise would have been. So we have multiple cyclones right now on our planet. We have a Category 5 tropical cyclone off the coast of Australia. This is northeast Australia, about to slam in to the continent. That's already a Category 5 with wind speeds over 230 kilometers per second. That's probably going to get enhanced more, or maybe it'll re-strengthen as we have this geomagnetic storm. We also have a cyclone in the Gulf of Alaska, and we also have a large rotating tropical cyclone off of Western Europe and Northwestern Africa. So really basically off the coast of Portugal is going to be bringing a lot of rain in there. And so we have three big systems that are likely to get amplified as a result of this geomagnetic activity. Moving on to global earthquake activity, we see that the strongest earthquake in the past week is a magnitude 6.3 that struck Chile back on the 13th of March. So just now at the end of this 1 week looking period here. And besides that, it's only been magnitude 5 activity. And in fact, there's been a bit of a deficiency of magnitude 5s in general. There was a 24-hour period where we basically didn't have any magnitude 5s or greater. We're seeing only a magnitude 5.8, 5.6. Other than that 6.3, everything else lower than magnitude 5.5. So this is a bit anomalous to see such a low amount of seismic activity, but we do have this big energetic shakeup coming in as a result of these solar storms and then the geomagnetic storm. So that may all of a sudden cause there to just be, as a result of there being more energy flux going through the surface, there just be a bit more earthquake activity. We just had the new moon and we have equinox. So all these combined, just like a classic energetic convergence, well, maybe we're going to see more earthquake activity. It's certainly possible. But recently the Earth has been acting a little weird as it relates to earthquakes. I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest. But if we have, continuous reductions in overall seismicity, at some point that's going to turn around. We're going to get a big seismic burst. So here we see something that's interesting. This occurred just in the past 24 hours. We see 6 significant earthquakes on a ocean spreading center. So a mid-ocean ridge where the plates are diverging. This is south of India, basically, on the mid-Indian ridge to the east of Madagascar. And to get a magnitude 5+ earthquake on a spreading center isn't super anomalous, but to get a bit of a burst like this is a bit more anomalous. We see them, but it's worth paying attention to when it occurs. And it's really worth paying attention to here because the antipode for this location, the exact opposite side of the Earth, is right off the coast of Mexico. So specifically, right about here is the antipodal location for that. Maybe it's a little bit further to the south. But what we see often is that when you get significant seismic activity in one location, you'll get an antipodal quake on the other. We don't know exactly why, some sort of vertical stress dynamic that exists, but it's a very clear trend that occurs. We have a lot of data for that. So we could be looking at a higher magnitude event in this location because that was a seismic burst that occurred on that spreading center. I'm saying, a heightened risk of a magnitude 6 or greater earthquake in and along this entire region for Mexico. That's really the main forecast for that. Let's look at our antipode map here. I have this set for the island of Mauritius, okay? So the actual quakes occurred further to the side, meaning that vector is even shifted further over towards Mexico. But if we zoom in on that, we see basically that antipode location. Again, because I have the actual burst occurred right here, this means that the antipode location exactly is more about there. And these antipode quakes aren't always exactly on that alignment, but there's a bit of a range, and often we see that happen. We have tons of data, at least from 2025, as we've been tracking that. So some significant quake activity could be coming to Mexico. In general, we're in a seismic deficit, you could say, and at some point that is going to turn around. So it's going to be really interesting to see when that occurs. We just had the new moon, we have equinox tomorrow, big solar storm impacts coming in. Maybe that will trigger it. If not, that energy does get put into the Earth. So at some point it will express itself outwards. And in general, we see more seismic activity during the descending phase and during solar minimum than we do during the ascending phase and solar maximum. So we're now in that descending phase, only getting closer to solar minimum day by day. And so in general, I expect more earthquakes, high magnitude earthquakes, to hit Earth in the coming years. We did just see an interesting signature pop up in the Schumann resonances. Here we have them out of Tomsk, Russia. We're looking at the vertical electric field. They have this antenna that they string out measuring these very minor fluctuations, vibrations in the electric field gradient going from the surface up to the ionosphere. It's that vertical electric field going from 0 to 40 hertz. So this is the part of the electromagnetic spectrum that overlaps with a lot of biologic resonances, our brain waves, heart rhythms, and more. I don't know why we're seeing these horizontal features here. I think it's a data aberration, some sort of noise. We often see noise gets put into the data. This is just one observation station. We're not seeing that signature from a few of the other public observatories for reference. So that's what makes me think that. Here we see a classic signature of like a rain cloud, maybe a thunderstorm. I think it's still probably pretty cold in Tomsk, so more likely maybe some snow, but it could be rain. That's very classic. Same here, a quick sudden burst of energy in the local area due to atmospheric weather. This is a bit different though. This is a little odd. We see a high frequency signature there near mode, what would that be? Mode 6 of the Schumann resonances near 39 hertz. And this burst right there in between modes 1 and 2 is odd. That's about 12.5, 13 hertz. This is mode 1, 2, 3, 4. These natural wavelengths of light that overlap with human brain waves generated by the Earth Naturally, lightning strikes, ionospheric sunrise, some space weather impacts also influence Schumann resonances. There's a whole bunch of things. But this is a bit of an odd signature. Nothing super crazy, why I'm not making a dedicated video on this, but definitely worth showing you, which is why we have this section in the video. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we also have multiple big cyclone systems right now on the planet, and the largest one is a Category 5 tropical cyclone off the coast of Australia. We see that right here, Hurricane Narelle, and it is looks like the wind speeds dropped just a little bit. It was Category 5 when I was looking at this just about 30 minutes, an hour ago. Now it's saying wind speeds are 215 kilometers per hour. It's about to slam into northeastern Australia, just south here of Papua New Guinea. So this is a big system. Let's look at it with our satellite imagery. And this is barreling in. We see that it's expected to decrease in intensity as it moves over land. Maybe it'll re-intensify and then sweep over northern Australia there, which has been battered by a lot of cyclones over the past few years. So the thing is, by the time it gets to here, we're going to be in this geomagnetic storm. And as a result, I expect this to probably re-intensify as a result of all this magnetic flux, because the entire global electric circuit gets energized by this plasma coming in from space. It hits the ionosphere, and well, you have electric potentials in these sort of very large cyclones that has electric potentials on the order of 100 million volts. Well, that gradient's getting enhanced. That electric flow between the ionosphere and that system will get enhanced if the ionosphere also charges up a bit more. And this is already very strong, creating just in general a stronger tether electrically to the outer Earth energy environment, which really starts with the ionosphere. So as flux of energy comes in there, some of that plasma is going to fall down effectively, get guided down to these sort of weather systems, enhancing them. So we'll see, but it's already a Category 4, was briefly Category 5, largest of the cyclone season for Australia. We also have a cyclone here off the coast of Portugal, basically. It's a little bit more diffuse. Beautiful Fibonacci pattern to it, though, effectively. This right there, bringing a lot of rain to northwestern Africa and Portugal, Spain. That is a big system, quite a low pressure in the center there. We can look at that right here. We're seeing 983 hectopascals. And if we go back to our tropical cyclone here, now it's Category 5 again, okay? So it's looking like it's right at that boundary between 4 and 5. This is showing 973, 972 hectopascals. We also have a big system in the Gulf of Alaska here. And we see that the low there is about 984 hectopascals. Let's put on the satellite imagery. And it's diffused a little bit now as it has slammed into Alaska. But we can still see it clearly here with our wind speed. Fairly compact. But here we can see some satellite imagery very nicely of this, taken by our GOES 18 satellite in space. This is our GOES West that tracks the west coast of Pacific and more. So a nice cyclone system there up in Alaska. And so what we're seeing effectively is just a lot of vorticity, where you have this vortex effect that is generated. And we see this connection between space weather increasing vorticity. So you already have 3 big cyclones, potentially more will form, eventually they will. And well, right, maybe these things get a little bit stronger than expected. This one has already kind of slammed in, it's probably dying out, it's probably done. But the one off the coast of Portugal there, that's one to watch. Europe has been battered just in the past month, 6 weeks with rain, tons of flooding across Western Europe and Africa, these parts of Africa. So more could be coming in as a result of that. These islands are getting hit. We are having a bit of a seismic burst here at Tenerife, the volcano. That's continuing on. So just wanted to point that out while we're there on the map. But the big impact coming in, and then here's another system that's forming right here off the coast of South America. But the big thing coming in is this Category 5. I'm not sure what's happening here. This Category 5 hurricane off the coast of Australia there. Category 4, Category 5 hurricane, also a bit of vorticity here off the coast of the North Island of New Zealand. So perhaps they also get this to get enhanced, and we'll see what happens there as well in the coming days. So that is the update as it relates to our weather systems on the planet. A lot happening right now, but the big thing that we are waiting for at this moment in time are these solar storm impacts that are coming in. We have two big coronal mass ejections launched from the sun. We see the blast waves on these quite significant, and two filaments that launched in between. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a combination that occurs where just for whatever reason they combine together. Even though they were launched about overall 48 hours apart, we could see them be a bit more compact in their transit across Earth than would be expected. We're already 12 hours delayed at this point with this first one right there. And then we have this co-rotating interaction region from this coronal hole set to sweep by. If all that combines together, this could be a big impact. And so Earth's magnetic field will take this hit. It's not going to be a problem. We get these every solar maximum, every descending phase, even sometimes during minimums. And of course, during the ascending phase, we get solar storms as well. But definitely it is a big energetic shakeup. It affects people biologically because of the energy flow, just in general, that this is our energy environment. So when that changes, it affects us in subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways. So, expect that to also be the case. We have a Mercury retrograde at this moment in time as well. That is worth pointing out. The new moon, equinox, just in general, a classic energy convergence that is unlikely to be a soft impact. And in general, these energies take time to work through the system. So then we go into April, and well, on April 4th, we have a sun grazer comet. Shortly after that, we start to have some pretty critical planetary geometry around 420. And then we have a perfect sun comet earth alignment right around the 25th of April. So we have some things that we know are going to occur next month. And we have this happening right now. In general, this energy progression is continuing forward. So I'll keep you up to date on all that as I always do. Please subscribe to the channel. I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Smash that thumbs up button to help the channel grow. Thank you all so much for your support, for watching. And I'll be back with more information here, long form, maybe even a live stream as this geostorm goes on. I also release standalone clips on my Clips channel. Both of those are linked in the video description, my main and my Clips channel. So thank you all so much. Wishing you well. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video.